Greetings fellow citizens, we're anonymous. It has come to our attention that a 15-year-old girl by the name of Justina Pelletier has been held against her will by the state of Massachusetts for over 1 year. Justina has a condition known as mitochondrial disease. However, the Boston Children's Hospital believes that it all is merely in her head, and as a result she has been detained in addition to being tortured physically and mentally by this corrupted system for nothing more than being sick. Justina is only allowed to speak to her family for 20 minutes a day and be visited for 1 hour a week. Anonymous and the American people will not tolerate this abuse of our children and will retaliate using whatever means necessary in order to protect our fellow citizens from this abusive and manipulative behavior. We will punish all those held accountable and will not relent until Justina is free.
Well, I'm here, and as you can see, at the steps of the Supreme Court of the United States of America, because I think that institution is supposed to protect our rights. This story came to us. Dana Gottesfeld emailed me or texted me and said, I have a story for you need to talk about. It's important. I get a lot of these. As I dug a little further into it, this is something really compelling. I think everyone needs to take a listen. This is Dana Gottesfeld right here. Dana's husband, Marty, is in jail, in prison, federal prison, for how long?
Since 2016.
Until?
His release date is 2024.
So why did the feds throw Marty in jail? Tell us the story.
Yeah. Marty helped a girl named Justina Pelletier. She was taken by Boston Children's Hospital and locked in a psych ward against her will. The hospital put a gag order on her parents, and her parents appealed to the public for help. And, like, our daughter, we're afraid she's going to die. So Marty's a senior systems engineer, and he thought, there's a child's life on the line. What can I do to help? And he thought, I'm a computer engineer. And he brought down their website during a donation day. And it hit Boston Children's Hospital in the one place that they pay attention to, which is the pocketbook. After a long time of getting Justina out of this psych ward and out of other bad facilities, she was finally returned to her parents. The hospital continues to, it's called medically kidnap children.
So let's stop there for a second. All right? So you understand what happened here. Family takes their daughter. Now, originally took their daughter to a doctor who diagnosed her with
mitochondrial disease.
Mitochondrial disease, their personal doctor. They bring her to Boston Children's Hospital. She gets a completely different diagnosis. Tell me if I'm getting this right.
Right.
Completely different diagnosis. Less physical and more emotional. Am I right? The diagnosis was?
Yeah, they said somatoform disorder. She was making it up.
Making it up. Parents do not accept the diagnosis. And what happens? What does the hospital do?
They take custody away.
Take custody away of a 14-year-old child from parents, calling it, and it's apropos named medical kidnapping, but it's some sort of legal state taking. It's probably the Baker Act is basically what it is. If a doctor and the state believe that a child's health is in danger, they can take it from the parents, right? So technically, is it Baker Act or no?
I think they accuse them of medical Munchausen by proxy, which is purposely hurting the child, except they never did any investigation. They said, we believe this, and the judge said, fine.
Basically, they were worried about the child's security, safety, and they thought they had a better diagnosis than their own doctor. So go ahead. So now Marty, and this is Lou and Linda Pelletier and Justina Pelletier.
Right.
How do Lou and Linda find help from your husband, Marty?
They make a public appeal. They say, we're afraid our daughter is going to die and we need help.
And she was deteriorating under this psychosis diagnosis.
Yeah, she went from a figure skater to paralyzed below the hips. They would do things like drag her across the floor, ripping her toenails. They would, when she said she didn't have the strength to wheel herself, they would just leave her in a hallway for a weekend.
At the Children's Hospital?
At Boston Children's Hospital Psych Ward, Bader 5. It blows the mind that, like, one of the best children's hospitals in the country, one with the best reputation, a Harvard back facility.
Listen, I'm just here are the facts, and you can decide, but the facts are that the Pelletiers took the Justine's daughter to a doctor who diagnosed her with mitochondria disease, which is very physical. They go to Boston Children's Hospital. They say it's not physical, it's an emotional disorder. The parents disagree. They take the child. She's put in a psych ward where she goes from healthy, happy to being dragged across floors.
Yeah, when she said she couldn't walk, they didn't believe her. So they would just drag her. They really didn't care about her state. And she got so much worse under there.
So now parents, Lou and Linda, meet up with husband Marty. Marty says, this is bad. I got to do something about it. What does he do first?
So a distributed denial of service is sending too much available DDoS, too much available internet traffic to a website.
You basically put too much traffic in, their website can't handle it on a donation day.
Yeah, it's like too many people trying to sign on to it.
Let's be honest. It's illegal to do this, but
Right.
he was so mad that the Boston Children's Hospital were not paying attention to the parents of this 14-year-old who's sitting in a psych ward.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Harvard behemoth. Almost nothing can touch them. And money gets their attention.
So what happens?
So their website was down for about a week. No patients were harmed, as the jury found, not even potentially endangered. And Justina was transferred from, it also hit Wayside, a behavioral modification program, facility that wasn't helping her. And she got transferred to a better facility where she was able to appeal to the governor. And she ultimately
Let me stay on Marty
home.
for a second. So now this is going on. You go to, they figure out it's Marty, right? How do they figure that out?
He uploaded a video to our social media page, just as a First Amendment thing, saying about Justina. He did it publicly. It was the First Amendment.
So he said, I did this because this is a First Amendment thing, or no?
The uploading to the website.
Anonymous and the American people will not tolerate this abuse of our children and will retaliate using whatever means necessary.
But
so
yes,
he uploads the video.
At the trial, he did
and
say.
And then they put two and two together. They realize it's Marty Gottesfeld, right?
Gotcha.
And now he's at trial, and what's his defense?
The defense that he wanted was defense of another. Justina's life was in danger, and he felt it was necessary to protect her, and at least to be able to present that at trial, but they wouldn't even let him do that. So they really pulled the rug out from underneath him, and I don't think it should be a judge's decision for the jury not to hear a defense.
So now he goes through, and he's in prison prior to the guilty verdict.
Yeah.
He gets a guilty verdict and gets, what, 8 years?
10 years.
10 years. A
10 years
sentence.
And almost $500,000 in restitution. And these are the fees of the IT company to bring the website back up.
Bring the website.
It's a very expensive IT company. Probably the most expensive in Boston, I would guess.
And so now he sits. Now what happens when Marty's in jail now? And so you said you haven't had contact from him in 4.5 months. Why?
Yeah. So they sent him to a communications management unit, which is one of 2 black site prisons in the U.S. One's in Marion, Illinois, and this one's in Terre Haute, Indiana. And he tried to...
What does that mean, black site?
This was established after 9/11. It's mostly for terrorists, like the American jihadists got sent there, and political prisoners, people they find politically inconvenient. So things that are different about this from the regular Federal Bureau of Prisons is like regular prisoners get 300 minutes a month. Marty gets 2 15-minute calls a month. Just horrible. So now, even worse than everybody else there, they've cut off all of his communications. He's totally incommunicado. And I just haven't heard from him. I'm following what's going on based on court filings, but, you know, there's no one to appeal to. He's trying as much as he can. I'm learning a lot from court filings, but it's awful.
So the next phase of this, now Marty gets thrown in jail. He's got this thrown in this black, dark spot where he gets no communication. Probably they fear he would be danger because if he has access to it, whatever. But I'm not defending any. I'm just putting the facts out here. I think this is an insanely unfair case, just for the record. That's just my opinion. Now Justine, this is what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, his trial was in 2018.
So a year and a half ago, Justine is now getting better. How and why, and how did she get released from the Children's Hospital?
So after, the DDoS, shortly after, she was able to make a video appealing to the governor.
All I really wanted with my family and my friends, and it's all I want is just to be with my family and friends back home where I want to do it right now. You can do it. You're the one that's judging this. Please let me go home, Judge Johnson and Governor Patrick. Please, right now. Please let me go home right now. I need to be home with my family.
And they finally let her go home. So now she's going back to her family, back on her medications. She's getting real therapy, back into a special needs school that is good for her. And she's seems to be doing better.
So
she's still paralyzed though.
The
below
state
hips.
gave Justine back to the parents that they thought were abusing her.
Yeah, and you know, the real interesting thing is that they worked with Michelle Bachmann to get something called Justina's Law into Congress, which says that the state would be prevented on doing research on a child that poses no potential benefit for them. And that didn't get passed. So right now what you have is BCH and others are able to do, mess with medication and testing once they become a ward of the state without input from the parents. So it's very, right in line with Justina's parents saying, thank you for the second diagnosis. We're going to go back to our second doctor. Below the hips, yeah, she's still in a wheelchair.
And do you think that's from something that happened at Children's Hospital?
Well, it's a degenerative disease. It only gets worse. So the most you can do is slow it.
The mitochondria?
The mitochondrial disease. So the most you can do is slow it down. And they treated her so badly that it just sped up the deterioration. So she's doing better. She's trying to regain a life. You can see from pictures that there's a spark back in her eye. She's dealing with the trauma. She's suing BCH now, her family. But, you can't take back going from a figure skater to wheelchair bound.
The Pelletiers are suing BCH.
Yeah.
Are the Gottesfelds?
Suing
are you guys,
BCH?
Yeah, are you suing BCH?
Right now we're dealing with Marty's appeal.
Yeah.
We're trying to get him communication, get him out of prison. We're actually working on a commutation. That's the goal.
Commutation. So therein lies the story of both Marty and also Justine's family. Literally two stories wrapped in one. Now here, and I'm just playing devil's advocate, I'm a journalist, but we had to bring the story. There is the issue you do have where people taking, let's call it the law into their own hands if they don't like something happening. Now this is a great cause. She may be dead if it weren't for Marty. Justina.
Yeah, I think you can say that.
What about other people? You have to think about this. What about other people who have other issues other than a beautiful young 14-year-old girl? Maybe someone else has an issue with, I don't know, global warming, and they bring down a corporate website. It's different, but it's also using the same method to get your message out.
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, first, I should start by saying we're pretty upstanding citizens. We've never had any issues with the law. We don't take issues with that kind of stuff. In this case, it was a child's life on the line, and that is different. We don't consider this activism. We don't consider this raising awareness, because there's a lot of ways you can do this. This was literally a child was going to die. Her parents were appealing. So I think that's kind of what separates it. Also, in terms of just protest, if you want to go in that direction, I also just want to definitely make clear that the jury found that no patients were harmed or even potentially harmed. What it did was cause them an inconvenience. So instead of putting in a prescription online to CVS, doctors would have to call it in. So, I guess weighed in totality of a child's life versus the inconvenience.
So did Marty bring down the whole Boston Children's Hospital website completely, or just the donation wing of it, or all of it?
I think it was.
Well, if the doctors had to call it in, maybe it didn't just.
I think it was
DDoS the.
Yeah, I think it was a broader thing. Yeah.
All right. So listen, I think this is a story that needs to be told. I'd like to bring this to Sinclair as well, which this will be all digital. Sinclair will be all broadcast. It's a story that needs to be told again. I'm all for free speech. I'm 100% free speech.
I love that
advocate.
about you.
I'm 100% advocate for free speech. I want to know where people can get more information. If I didn't ask the questions you want answered and you want to know more, that you can find it at
freemartygg.com.
freemartygg.com.
Yeah.
They can donate too if they
can
want
donate. You can write Marty letters, read more about the case, the whole shebang.
Dana, keep us informed.
Thank you so much.
How old is Justina's 15 or 16 now?
No, I think she was 14 at the time, so she's about 18 now.
Okay, so she's 18. If she would come on, maybe we can have a conversation with her. She can tell us about her time at the Boston Children's Hospital.
Absolutely.
I'd like to do that. Thank you. Nice
Thank
to meet
you
you.
so much.
America.